Absentee board member showed up, so please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Hard worker.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you all for coming. Welcome to all of you here and all of you. Do we have any people virtually? Anyhow, we have a new system where we are going to stream everything and record it. No, we're not recording it.
I'll talk more about the requirements.
Anyhow, so you're in virtual land if you speak. So usually we introduce everybody, but we have a lot of folks tonight. So you can all see who we are up here, and thank you all for coming because we usually don't have a crowd. So it's great to see people. We have one item from the floor. Miss Cindy Sparry. Sorry.
I've never been to one of these. What do I do?
Please go ahead. 5 minutes if you would keep your comments to that.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Where do I stand? Behind it. Okay.
Now you can lean on it if you want.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm Cindy Sparry. I have 2 kids at HomeLink, and I'm also here speaking on behalf of a lot of HomeLink moms. This is testing week. Kids statewide are taking the SBAC test. This test is presented as required, but Washington State public school parents actually do have the right to refuse by simply filling out a form. There are many very strong feelings against this test, and even State Superintendent Chris Reichdahl doesn't care for it. In this district, you can opt out of the test at Arcadia, Deer Park Middle, Deer Park High. You can opt out at HomeLink too, for now, but next year that is changing. The administration has stated that they will kick out any HomeLink child, full-time HomeLink child who opts out of the test. The justification given is that HomeLink is a choice school. If we choose to opt in, we will be choosing to forfeit this right to opt out of the test. This is discriminatory. Can you imagine the same justification being used for the sex ed law? Statewide, kids are allowed to opt out of sex ed. What if a choice school said, not you guys. You guys have opted in, you don't get to opt out. Not only that, but it fits our families better, HomeLink does, than traditional schools. Why should we be punished for this? You may wonder if other choice schools strip their families of the opt-out right. Not the ones I spoke to. Spokane, Colville, Mary Walker, Chewelah, East Valley, Meade, and Newport have all assured me that they do indeed allow kids at their ALE to opt out. Chewelah, in fact, told me, and I quote, "Here we put our students and families first." The administration of Deer Park has, unfortunately, chosen to put reputation above serving the families. They would rather that the public's test scores be impressive than to meet the needs of families like the ones I've spoken to. Special need families, one little boy who vomits before tests, or simply those of us whose educational philosophies do not align with Common Core. I implore you to use your voice that you have to speak for the families who you serve and not allow this new rule to take place. Continue to allow HomeLink parents to choose the best school for their kids without forfeiting their God-given parental rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for speaking, and we will consider all the, as we already have,
Thank you.
we're working through it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Travis, with that, no more items from the floor, correct? All right, superintendent's update, sir.
I'll try and be brief. We've got lots to cover tonight. But, I think obviously this is our first meeting in this room, where I just wanted to say congratulations on choosing a new superintendent. Congratulations to Dr. Holman, and excited for her. The district's in good hands, and I think that going forward, the 2 years I've spent with Alexa, getting a chance to work with her and around her, I know her deep care for kids for this community is going to serve you and this community well, so well done. I'm going to cover just a couple legislative items. Just want to make sure as the session wraps up, we've talked at length over the past few months about some of the items that the legislature was considering. There are a lot of things that we could cover tonight. I want to just get to a couple highlights to give you an idea in terms of those things that we talked about and have been talking about for months. Things that, as I have shared with you, ways that items that in Olympia affect how we educate kids, affect us locally. We've been involved, whether that's in testimony, writing legislators, sending text messages, those types of things. Number one, do want to let you know as it pertains to the Green Building Compliance Act. So we've talked about that one at length, the idea that buildings that don't meet the new energy thresholds, even for example, this building that's well over 100 years old, needs to meet modern energy standards, and simply replacing systems or replacing lights don't get us there. We've had this discussion before. Didn't necessarily get the bill passed. However, they did add $60 million into the final capital budget to put together a series of work groups to look at green building compliance, particularly its impact on public education, knowing that the way that we pay for updates for buildings is through capital projects and bonds. Bonds have been really difficult to pass. So part of the work groups and the studies that are going on are really looking at and trying to do some analysis around the reality of the fact that there are close to 1,000 K-12 school buildings in the state of Washington that don't meet compliance and that were built prior to the existence of energy codes in the state. So if 1977 was the date that energy codes came into existence, we have almost 1,000 buildings that were built prior to that. Those buildings won't be fixed and updated based on, let's say, maybe even $50,000 or $100,000 improvements to HVAC systems or some new insulation. We're talking entire envelope replacements. So hopefully we'll see some ongoing study and relief in that area. So I think a small victory there that we were able to get some attention on this issue, particularly as it pertains to school districts who have to rely upon voted debt to get there.
That bill passed, right? So it's got.
So the bill didn't pass, but they included a large dollar amount in the capital budget to fund the work groups and the work studies. The other last part of the work study that's really important for us is WAMOA, the acronym, the Washington Association of School Management Directors, basically. So Steve Howard in our case, and others around the state are going to have a seat at that table. So that's new, and that was an element at the very end. They talked about having the Department of Commerce completely run the work group. The Department of Commerce was the one that we were really having some of the issue around rulemaking with, and so the fact that we're going to have a seat at the table as the other groups is a move in the right direction. I wanted to let you know one of the top priorities. We all went to the WASDA conference, the School Directors Conference. We know that one of the top priorities at the time was special education and full funding of special education. We didn't quite get to full funding, but I do want to let you know that the percentage, the cap, that is the money that we received from the state at 13.5% was raised to 15%. So we saw a 2.5% increase in the amount of money provided for the ways that we serve special education students. Some additional money was appropriated for safety net dollars and more dollars for inclusionary practices work, that is allowing our students with IEPs to have more time in the regular education classroom. So we saw some small gains in that area, and we're happy for that. You're aware that we're presently using the community eligibility provision, or the CEP provision, to provide free meals for all students at Deer Park Middle School. So the reality of how that works is school by school, the free and reduced percentage that applies to a particular school ended up getting us into a place where we had one school, and of course we had that challenge. Do we offer free meals all at one school without being able to offer system-wide? Obviously we want to pass on benefit where we can. So that program is going to be expanded. There's a really good chance that we're going to end up K-8, free breakfast, free lunch. Parents don't have to worry about that. So more details coming there. Brendan's going to dig into some of those numbers to verify that, but it's looking really good at this point. Another win is, in addition to the ways that we have used local levy dollars to fund college and high school, so the opportunities for kids to gain both high school credit as well as get college credit at the same time. All of the ways in which the grant money available through the state hasn't fully funded that program. The state has chosen to fully fund that program, so we won't have to, in addition to the grant dollars we get from the state and then use of levy dollars, those levy dollars can go other places. and we now have that opportunity to kids for free. So Joe and Troy and his staff have continued to direct kids to that program, a fantastic way for kids to not have to get into the Running Start system where they leave Deer Park and head towards Spokane, and gas, tuition, some of those elements that are connected to that, and get free college credit inside of our high school. That's a fantastic opportunity, and the legislature has freed up some lovely dollars for us there. We also avoided a couple really dangerous bills, some of those that testified on and just had some strong opinions about. Two would have increased state control or influence of curriculum adoption processes. So both of the bills that we talked about there did not make their way through the legislature this year. I think it's important that we realize, though, that as we've talked about at length, the ways that at the state level and wanting to have influence on the decisions that have typically been school board decisions and local decisions. So just would encourage Alexa and you to continue fighting the good fight. I certainly will where I'm headed, and look forward to continuing to keep local control where we have it, particularly as it pertains to materials and resources we use to teach kids. In addition to those two bills that changed the curriculum adoption process, we also had another bill that really attempted to set a dangerous precedent around school district staffing, and that was particularly around staffing of school libraries. And so while I'm very much a proponent and certainly at the building level and district level for the things that happen in libraries and the importance of that work there, the bill actually took the prototypical funding model, which is just that, a funding model, not a staffing model. And it's a way that the state provides money to districts, and then districts get that money to make decisions about how they staff. So the bill that would have mandated for every 1,000 students, the district would have to hire a certified library media specialist for every 1,000 kids. That bill fell off the table. So I love the idea behind the bill, the idea that we have important work to do in our library media centers, particularly as it pertains to some of the information literacy and digital literacy that we need to be instilling in our kids. We actually, as a district, are going to be investing there. So while this would not necessarily have represented a significant financial change for us, it certainly would have represented a change in how the legislature approaches funding and using their funding models to make staffing decisions for schools, which seemed to me like a fairly broad overreach. So glad that bill failed as well. Inflationary adjustments for school employee salaries were set at 3.7% in the first year of the biennium. The upcoming years, 3.9% in the second year. So those two figures are codified in law now, 3.7, 3.9. And then we have talked for a few years, particularly as we've talked about bonds and capital projects in this district and wanting to expand facilities and meet the need in this community. We've talked about both expanding ECAP, and then we also talked about the potential of adding transitional kindergarten. ECAP being the DCYF, or Department of Children, Youth, and Families. That program that's funded through the community college that we have here in our district, but then also the state-funded transitional kindergarten program. A bit of a war broke out legislatively between OSPI and the House Education Committee over what the House Education Committee felt like was an overreach in the use of basic ed dollars to fund transitional kindergarten. So I guess the go forward is that, and for you to think of, or any way that you want to expand early learning, probably the way that that's going to happen is through the ECAP system going forward. In the end, the transitional kindergarten underwent some significant changes. And it's no longer, at least for districts that don't have it, like Deer Park, we won't be able to access basic ed dollars going forward. Some of the districts that have it will be grandfathered and will be able to continue their existing program with the existing number of kids without expanding those programs. So for a lot of communities that don't have access to ECAP and early learning opportunities for their families, that's it's a bit of a loss. But I think that in our case, we've got a thriving ECAP program, and if we choose to expand services to eligible families for that program, we can certainly do so. We can do so in the future. Lastly, the one that Eric, as you opened the meeting, you talked about is this new reality of needing to record board meetings. So technically, the law reads that you have to provide at least an audio recording of a board meeting. It has to be posted on a website and available to the public for a year. So going forward, and prior to my exit, certainly will be helpful in getting that system set up and getting that ready to go as we experiment with that technology here. As I have shared with you, I think probably an audio recording would be in the end, more difficult than just doing the video recording with a device like we have here, because as you respond to me, or if someone's speaking from the lectern and addressing you, or someone's addressing from the crowd, it's going to be really difficult in an audio recording to tell who's saying what in the context of a meeting like this. So my advice would be to use the tools we have available, stream these meetings via Zoom, take that recording, post that. I think that's going to save Alexa and Joanne a great deal of work trying to respond to people who are trying to figure out who said what in the context of a 30-minute or 2-hour long audio recording. Of course, if you have special meetings where you need to make quick decisions, you call a special meeting and you need to get on the phone and approve, let's say, travel with students or something like that that comes up kind of last minute, you will have the ability to get into that special meeting. Alexa or Joanne could record that meeting using a phone or something else and post that quick recording. So you still can fall back to that, but I think this will be a good default going forward. With that said, I guess I'll ask, we had Jenny McClenathan, who was going to join us from Habitat. I wonder if she's with us tonight. Jenny?
Oh, here.
Fantastic.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
My name is Jenny McClenathan, and I am the Program Compliance Manager at Habitat for Humanity Spokane. As many of you know, Habitat Spokane has been at work in the Deer Park community for the past several years, building our twin home development, Hope Meadows. Over the years, we've built and sold affordable homes to 60 households, serving over 83 children. In a few short weeks, we will be completing construction in the 4th phase of this development and moving our focus into phase 5. This 5th phase of construction will bring another 10 homes and approximately 10 to 15 new students to this school district. It is our continued goal to provide strength, stability, and self-reliance to these households. Currently, we have approximately 45 future homeowners in our program working diligently on saving their closing costs, earning sweat equity hours, and attending multiple pre-purchase education workshops. These workshops, called Habitat College, are one of the cornerstones of our homeownership program. The curriculum for these workshops includes such topics as Mortgage 101, home maintenance, credit management, homeowners insurance, and several others. Since January, roughly 100 households from our waiting list have submitted their applications for our review, and about 36% of those households have been approved for our homeownership program. This application process often takes several weeks as our 3 criteria for partnership are vetted: a need for a safe, decent home, the ability to repay an affordable mortgage, and a willingness to partner with Habitat Spokane throughout the length of our program. Every household that is approved for partnership meets these criteria and sign on for a program that often takes 1.5 to 2 years to complete. During this time, not only are future homeowners attending 6 months of educational workshops, but they are earning dozens of sweat equity hours each month on our construction site, in our store, and at other events and opportunities. These households, in a mere 18 to 24 months, transform into homeowners right here in Deer Park. Through Shelter, we empower our community members while creating safe and affordable homeownership opportunities. Thank you so much for the chance to speak here this evening. We look forward to our continued partnership with the school district as we build more hope, community, and homes here in Deer Park.
Awesome. How many houses are going to be there total? I mean, how many families will be living there?
At the end of phase 5, we'll have a total of 70 homes. Beyond that, I am not sure the details.
Are those all split homes or duplex?
So 70 individual units or households. So what is that? 35 twin homes.
Cool. Thank you.
Jenny, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Enrollment for April had a slight dip. We saw about 2,600 students at 2,500 absentees. The good news is we're still about 50 over our budget, so financially we're sitting in a good position right now.
Any questions for Lynn?
You can take a picture.
Thanks for keeping us all in.
Next item is Deer High School Alternative Education combined with athletic classification, kind of an interesting confluence of 2 items that I just want to give you just in review some things that we've talked about previously. So Joe Feist and Kim Dibwood are here tonight to give us a little bit of an update. As they get ready, and I put some information up on the screen, part of what we've talked about is the reality that on a 4-year cycle, the WIAA, the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, engages in reclassification of statewide schools and for interscholastic athletics. As we've gone through that process, one of the things that they have codified in the WIAA handbook, and I'll go ahead and screen behind you. I'll get a chance to zoom in a little bit. I know you probably can't read it, but you can see section 18.6.2 talks about alternative education. And most specifically, that section talks about that these schools, these alternative programs must be registered with OSPI. So in sharing that detail for the history of the time that we've had an alternative education program here in Deer Park, we've had the ability, as does every other school district with a recognition program, have the ability to put those kids out of their overall athletic count as they make classification decisions. And then there came a moment in time where, as things turned over, actually Joe Feist was involved at the WIAA for a number of years, and about the same time that Joe left, a number of people on the board turned over, and there came to be a much more literal reading of that concept. So in the same way that as we think of our Deer Park High School alternative program, even though it's on the same campus, we offer a different and unique educational experience for the kids there based on their needs. So between the alternative ed program, where we have kids on site attending school 5 days a week, we also have our contract ed program that has kids that are engaged in learning based on the elements in their learning plan. So those two populations of kids are served there. And much like schools around the state, we've been able to extract many of these, all of the students in that particular program, again, from the overall building count. The more strict interpretation of this became the idea of being a registered OSPI site, which ultimately became WIAA was requesting a school code for that unique site. And right now, Deer Park High School's alternative program is registered under the same school code as Deer Park High School students. And so what that has really meant and what they asked us to do was to seek out that new school code. And so ultimately, when a couple of years ago when we applied for that, OSPI turned us down for that school code, really stating that because that program did not have its own administrator, because it didn't have a unique diploma, and because that site was on the same school campus, that it didn't qualify as a new school, and nothing really had changed from the years previous. So in looking at the area around us and realizing that a number of those factors certainly aren't true of other schools in their alternative program, we really looked into that. And part of what Joe and Cam are going to share tonight is the reality of how we serve those kids in unique ways. The fact that so many of our kids who are in the vast majority, in fact, over the course of really, as Cam has done a deep dive into some of the background of how many of those kids actually end up even participating in athletics that would make a difference in our athletic classification. The number's minuscule. So we're engaged in the process right now of moving forward, seeking out that new school code again. I've had a chance to reach out to Maria Flores and Tricia Teasley at OSPI, who have said we can move forward. There are really two things that, as Joe and Cam talked with you tonight, that are really on the table for our consideration, your consideration. Number one, in making a shift and getting a new school code, it will need a unique diploma for our Deer Park High School alternative kids. And so the reality of that would be that those kids could still participate in Deer Park High School graduation, but the fact that they received a unique educational experience in the context of that program would warrant a separate diploma. So that's one of the requirements of getting that school code. The second piece is, even though the campus, the building where we serve those particular students is on the same campus, from the Department of Ed perspective, they need to see a unique address. We can add basically the 800 South Weber to that with, alt school or whatever we end up naming that school. So part of it is in the name. We wouldn't necessarily have to significantly change the delivery model. It's already different. It's already unique, and it's already certainly has had an impact on the lives of many kids in Deer Park for a lot of years. So ultimately, this whole story ends with the reality that Deer Park, and back to the WIAA, look at the board one more time. So you can see their 2020 through 24 classification enrollment data. And you can just get a sense for the number of kids enrolled in a particular program. And then when we work our way down into, so there's 2B, we can work our way down into, so here's 2A. So at the bottom of the 1A, in one of the largest 1A schools in the state is Deer Park High School. And one of the elements around this is certainly 447 seems significantly lower than the almost 700 in terms of head count kids, because again, some of those kids have been whether they're enrolled in an alternative setting. There's also the free and reduced percentage factor that factors into the actual then ultimate number they use for determining your athletic classification. The last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Joe and Cam is the reality that this certainly is the decisions we're making about alternative education in Deer Park are not to change the program, are really to have the nature of the program reflected in how we deliver service. The interesting intersection of how we deliver that service and athletics certainly has some unique reality. This discussion is not about wins and losses. I want to be really clear about that. Has Deer Park been competitive and successful and had some success in the 1A classification? Absolutely. But there are realities about jumping to 2A that I think are very unhealthy for kids, and that is the reality of ending up having to compete with a Pullman, a Clarkston, significant travel. So thinking of a Thursday night basketball game or a Friday night volleyball game where we've got kids leaving school in the middle of a school day at let's say 1 p.m., getting on a bus and heading toward Pullman or heading toward Clarkston to compete in that league, being gone for that portion of the day, playing a game. Let's say that it starts with, let's say we're playing JV at 5:30 and varsity at 7 o'clock, getting done with that game at 9 or 9:30, getting on a bus and making it back to Deer Park around midnight and trying to get up and go to school the next day. So there just are some logistical realities that I think have an impact on the way that we educate kids that I think would ultimately be detrimental. These are things that we've talked about before, just a little history both for you and for those who are with us tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to Joe and Cam and let them kind of take it from here.
Okay, well, I appreciate you setting the stage there. Just quick history, how did we get here and where were we? So about 20 years ago, the WA decided to go out of fifth classification. And some of you, Eric, you might remember this. When we did that many years ago, a league was formed, a 2A league, and at that time the 2A league went all the way down to 300 students. And that was the current league we're in now, except it was called the Great Northern League. So the Great Northern League was a brand new league. We were in that league with the schools we're currently in. And then we grew a little bit. They changed the numbers again 8 years ago, and we ended up for a few years back in what they then called the Great Northern League, which was Pullman, Clarkston, West Valley, East Valley, and then 8 years ago they changed the numbers again, and that folded the Great Northern League. We went back into the Northeast A. I'll explain how we got there. And all those schools are now in the Greater Spokane League, and the Greater Spokane League became a 2A, 3A, 4A league. We were kind of destined for that. When I was the president of the executive board, we put in the alternative rule because schools all through the state were counting kids that were not participating in athletics. And Cam's going to explain that to you here in a couple minutes. But we had a big discussion on if a district has 200 kids in their alternative school and then none of them are participating in athletics, should they count on your count? So that was a huge discussion statewide. Everybody had opinions. It was decided, no, those kids shouldn't count. Yes, they can still be eligible, but very few of them participate. So we said that was the intent and the spirit of the rule. So that happened, and we ended up in the 1A, kind of back in the old Great Northern League. So then we were 1A, but we were back in the league where we used to be 2A with all the same schools Chewelah was in at that time. Other than that, it was like we came full circle. Then 4 years ago, same thing, I was no longer on the board. We got a call that we're going to be 2A. I said, I don't understand that because we have pretty much the same count that we did 4 years ago. The numbers haven't changed that much. And they said, you don't have a separate number for your alt school. So I said, yeah, but I was president at that time, and that wasn't the intent and the spirit of the rule. So we had a big discussion. When the discussion was over, basically, and I talked to the new executive board, what they said is, okay, we will let you stay 1A because evidently that was the spirit, but to go forward is if you don't have your own number next time, you got to go where you got to go. So I'm not here to advocate that we give the alternative school another number or not. We're just going to be here to give you some numbers and facts so you can have an educated discussion about it. I will go back to when I first got here many years ago. My first year here, the alternative school had a separate graduation. Kids were not allowed to the prom. And when I saw that, I didn't think that was right. And I said, I don't understand, because the alternative school was under our number. I felt that those kids would be better served having the same opportunities as everyone else. I think they should be allowed in our graduation. That's a discussion we had at the time, and I think that's been a very positive thing. I think it's been good for that program. It's been good for those kids. They participate in a lot of our things, whether it be dances, some different things, but honestly, not very many participate in athletics. Maybe just a few, maybe 3 or 4 over the last 15 years. So that's kind of how we got there today. And then Cam's going to tell you what our numbers are. The first, the way the WIA, you have to remember this, counts enrollment, and they started this in January, so we're already going to be on our 5th month count when we get to May 1st, is they take all your freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. They don't count your seniors, okay? The freshman and sophomore this year just happen to be the 2 biggest classes we've ever had in the school. So they're 194 and 190, and then next year that's going to drop significantly again to 150. We're actually going to go down. Next October, our count's going to go down about 80 kids as far as the WIAA is concerned, because you'll go from a freshman class of 194 down to 150, and they do not count running start students. So if 50 sophomores go to running start, now you're down 50 plus 30, and we're down 80. I do want to caution you that whatever we do this January through May count, that's our average right now is going to be high. And we are not going to be able to say, okay, we have a OSPI number now, and so can you back those kids out? We cannot do that. What we'll have to do is we'll have to appeal, and then they'll have to look at that. I'm pretty confident they usually do what's best for schools. I'm pretty confident that Cam would win that appeal, but there's no guarantee that he would win, we would win that appeal. So just be aware of that. And then the numbers right now, if they stay pretty close, Cam will give you those numbers where we would fall. But again, those numbers could move up 2025 or down 2025. So just wanted to have all those facts so you could have good discussion, and maybe you could kind of walk them quickly through the numbers.
Yeah, so again, you guys have the sheet that you have up is a little different than what they have. I've been diving into this for the past month pretty heavily, just because I think that the things that we do are going to affect a lot of kids, our decisions we make. And with athletics, again, for those of you in the crowd that don't know, I'm the athletic director at the high school, so obviously this is very important for me. So a couple things just to be aware of, Deer Park High School's ALE programs. You guys know we have the alternative school, the contract kids, the full day and then also our online students as well are in that ALE category, those full day online. They take one online class that doesn't count because they're in the high school taking high school experience. So currently we have an average so far these first 4 months of 33 contract students. We have an average of 13 full day alt school students and an average of 13 online students. Okay. So to kind of jump to, Travis showed you the free and reduced lunch. That is going away. That number is not ideal anymore because of the way that some schools now are actually, like our middle school has 100% free and reduced lunch. So the state can't use that number because there's districts that have a high school has 100% free and reduced, so they're not going to reduce somebody's enrollment by 50%. So what they're doing is this, which is the second sheet I gave you guys. They're going to use the district's, the high school's direct certification number. Okay, and that number is all of these things. It's a lot of information. And then what they're going to do is they're going to take that number. I was this weekend at our AD conference, and they still don't have all the information dialed in yet. With OSPI, they said that they're trying to figure out where they're going to pull this information from. There's multiple different data banks that they're pulling information from, trying to figure out what to use. Where they're at currently is they're going to take that direct certification number and then they're going to multiply it by a factor. Right now, the number they threw out was 1.065. And then that's going to be that number that they're going to get a student count number to reduce us by. In conversations we've had with President Mick Hoffman and the person in charge of classification committee right now, they said we should be about similar to where we were in the last count. 15 to 20 students will drop off with that number. Again, that's just a projection. We don't know. We don't have any certainty. They gave us some dates. Preliminary numbers are going to come out June 1st. They're going to give us our first, they'll do the first 4 months. They'll give us that. Hopefully they're going to give us our direct cert number and how that's going to be by that point in time. And then in January is when the final counts come out. December they come out, they're done. December they come out. January is then when we'll get an opportunity to do appeal. Like Mr. Feist said, that we're going to have to appeal just because of with the numbers that we currently have from January till we get the number in place, the school code in place, we're going to be over that count number, just how it is. But if we look at the back side of the page I gave you guys, our projected, or my projected, what I've take count parameters for this year, what it'll be at the end. Again, those numbers are a little off for you in the crowd because I had to make some adjustments from some other research I did. But our total average is about 525 students, right? If we take out those ALE students that we average, we'll be at 467. Then with that reduced 15 to 20, I took the high end being positive, and we'll be under the 449 cap at 447, just barely. That's if everything goes right, okay? Now, we do have those two classes that are an anomaly right now, right? With 190 and 193 students. Prior to that, everything I found, we averaged about 155 every year for the past 15 years I've been here. You know, we have some low classes. I think our junior class right now is 130, 140, right? It's a really small class, but then I did some projections. I've been getting numbers from our elementary schools. This week, my next project is I'm going to get it from elementary school, Arcadia, all the way down to third grade. If you look at the bottom of this sheet, we average about 155 until all the way down to third grade. So the second, bouncing back up top, the second we see there is our estimated 2 years into the cycle. That shows you there that we'll be, once those two classes are gone and we look at count numbers, we're going to be well below. And so this is the data that I will use in the appeal to show the state that, look, we've been here, we popped here because of those two odd classes, but now if we look all the way down for the next 8 years, we're going to be right about 380, right at 400. We're going to be below for quite a long time unless we get some crazy spike again, which we can't predict those things. But just within athletics at the high school, just so you guys kind of give some numbers of what we have done here at the high school. Last year, again, coming out of the COVID year to this year, we've gained about 130 athletes total participating, which is a great thing. This year, we've had right around 300 students at the high school participating in at least one sport. Our 9th grade through 11th grade participation is right about 230. And then with that, our alternative ed students, 9 through 12 participation. In the last 4 years, we have about an average of 2 a year. 9 through 11, we have an average of 1 a year that actually participates in sports. So a pretty small percentage of our student population from that group actually participates in sports. And then if you look obviously at the future projections, again, I'm going to add this. I'll send you guys the information once I dial in all the way down into kindergarten what we have. But you know, again, he shows right there, we're going to be below that threshold of 1A for a long time. You know, again, barring any crazy trends different, you know. But I think that with our participation, what we have with the kids that we have in our district and where our enrollment is, it wouldn't be a good thing for our kids to go up to 2A, in my opinion. And so I'm going to work hard to get that appeal through. You know, I'm working with other schools in the area that have gone through the appeal process to get kind of the information that the state wants in those appeals so that I can come to them with as much info as we can.
So Cam, if we were not to get that, we would be in the GSL, correct?
Correct.
So we'd be playing Shavel, Rogers.
Which is all going to depend. We don't know yet. Because, yeah, it depends. So I guess here's some more info on that. So when we look at classifications and size of leagues, that is how our allocations to playoffs and the state part contest come. So you have to have a full one allocation to even get participation in state, right? Depending on your league size, depends on how many numbers you get to state. Right now, our league has 7 schools. We get 2 or 3, depending on the year, allocations to state. If we were to drop into or go up into 2A, they only get 1 allocation currently. They're actually going to lose a couple schools, it sounds like, and that league will only have 5 schools. So we will have less than 1 allocation to state, which means we will have to then combine with another district in Central Washington to even get an opportunity to get into state. Also, us leaving then drops the NEA, all of those 6 other schools, out of the ability to have state participation, because they'll go from having 2 and 3 a year down to 1, and they'll only get 1 allocation to state as well. So us staying in, moving up is a big deal. It affects a lot of people, it affects a lot of kids, it affects a lot of our kids, you know. And then like Travis said, travel, you know, I remember one of my first years coaching here, I was, you know, the head track coach when we traveled down to Clarkston in that 2A league. We got on the bus for a track meet at, the track meet starts at 3:30. So we left here about 11:30 in the afternoon, drove to Clarkston. They didn't have a very big team at the time. We had a 45-minute track meet, got on the bus, drove back home. And our kids were expected to be out of school there. Got home, you know, we got home about 10, 11 o'clock at night. Kids had to do homework and all those things. Also, like you said, basketball games, 7 p.m. tip off for a boys basketball game. A long game, a good game, gets over at 10:30. Now our kids are home at 1 and 2 in the morning. In the winter. Right. So there's a lot of factors in that, but these are the numbers. I think that, like Joe said, I think that we can, I think I can talk my way around getting this appeal done once we get into that process. We're going to have to appeal. But I think we can get there with the data that we show where we're going.
So I'm sorry.
Quick question. Yeah, you mentioned the running start factoring into part of the numbers. So as Travis was talking about the new college courses, is that going to replace?
Those kids are in the school, so they count. The way they count students is they pull them off the P223, and Running Start kids don't show up on the P223. So some years we might have 30 kids go. Like this year we have 30 seniors, but we only have 14 juniors. So anybody that goes to Running Start doesn't show. But the college and the classroom kids are our students, so they would show.
So that will adjust the numbers a little bit.
It doesn't. We're going off what they pull. These numbers you see here are what they pull off the P223. So our actual number of kids we graduate are larger, but they're not counted on this. Like if you took a school like Lewis and Clark, they might have 200 Running Start kids, and so you just don't see them on your count because they can't track that. A couple other things just so you know, and then we'll move on. If you have any questions, let us know. The good thing, I did talk to Mick at the WA the other day, and I'm pretty confident if it got to that point that we win an appeal because one of the comments, and he made this to Travis and I as well, is that most of the time when people come to them with something and they win the appeal, they never hear from them again. We actually followed up and did what we were supposed to do, so they're very excited about that. That rarely happens, so that puts us in good graces there. And as far as the alternative program goes, I don't want to talk athletics. We have really done, and that staff has done great work of getting kids graduated. And that program is a tremendous safety net, and it's a fantastic program. And we've gone from Darren Snyder being out there alone to now having a math teacher and having 2 periods of an English teacher, and it's grown a lot, and it's a great thing. I don't think this would change anyway the way we go forward with that. We would have to do a little work with parents because, they have always liked the fact that those kids get a Deer Park High School diploma, and I appreciate that. And I would have to have the conversation with them that now it would be, Deer Park Alternative High School. My gut is they want something that says Deer Park on it. I've talked to a few people. So anyway, just something else to think about. And I think I don't know when we have to have a decision, so.
But Jill, there's got to be a way that we can, it doesn't even have to we don't have to name it the alternative school. We can come up with a really good name and have Deer Park in there. And they are our kids.
Yeah,
So
the parents really want Deer Park in the name.
Absolutely.
Just so you know that. I think that's fair.
Absolutely.
So if you have any questions, let us know. There's a lot more information if you want it. It's a kind of an overly complex way, in my opinion, to count students, but that's the system that we're living in.
We've basically got 4 weeks until our next meeting in this room to make a decision for moving forward, because then by the time the school code window is going to close in June, we'll have a work session at that particular time. But I think basically we're going to have an opportunity to have some dialogue at our upcoming work session in May, and then make a final decision by the time we meet again in this room in late May. And then I really do believe, just as an example, you take an example of a Spokane Region school, you have West Valley High School, that's a 2A school, but they're a 2A school that has Fishing Hills Alternative. They have their a separate city school, West Valley City School, it's a high school in that system, and they also have an online program. They have 3 separate programs, they're all school codes. All of those kids, and a large number of them participate in athletics there. So it's not as if we're trying to do something that's abnormal or not being done at another local high school. It's simply just the reality of how it's been done in the past and some of these changes at the WIAA level. So at the end of the day, I think your decision really comes down to working closely with Joe, with Cam, with the families and staff of our alternative program to decide what that diploma says, if that's the direction we're going to go. And then I think the last part is, certainly Cam was talking about that appeal process. That's really predicated upon a decision that you make first. So the decision that you make to move forward with this process and actually have me pursue a school code for our alternative program that follows up with the ability potentially, if necessary, to go through the appeal. Probably the only thing that we haven't said is there's an outside chance, probably a very small chance, that we go through this whole process and the way the numbers shake out, Deer Park's a 2A system. And that could just happen. I think that the research that they've done and the work they've put in lets us know that we're in that place where this is meaningful enough for kids and for this community that I think is worth pursuing. So we'll leave it at that. If you have questions for me.
I'll just close by saying there's a lot of schools in the area that are really interested in what we're going to do. So we get a lot of calls. People are really nice to us right now.
This last weekend I was asked multiple times, at the 80 conference. I think I had 6 or 7 other people come to me and say, hey, what's your guys' status? Where are you guys going to be? Because again, like I said, it affects that 2A league and it affects our league a lot. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deer Park Elementary, we have Principal Tricia Camber and Principal Haley Maxfield here with us tonight. We're going to give you a little update about what's going on at Deer Park Elementary School. Let me get that up on the board here.
Thank you for the opportunity to present to all of you on the good work that we have going on at DPE.
It's coming.
Okay.
It's hard to find that out.
Yeah.
Easy.
I
That's a very good.
Sorry,
First.
said all day.
Close one. And the other. Okay. All right, ladies, floor is yours.
All right. So thank you again for inviting us to present. We would invite all of you to sometime just drop by DPE. I think you get a lot about a school culture and climate when you visit. And so we would invite that if you want to advance to the next one. So tonight we're going to talk to you about our school climate, some achievement that we have going on, and then some work around behavior, social, emotional learning that we have been attending to.
So a big focus this year, 33% of our staff, including Tricia and I, are all new this year, and many of our students. And so we really wanted to focus on involving our students in creating some projects that we could share with families. And so we did our thank you veterans, and so students brought in labels with people from their families that have served in the military, and then we did our DPE is thankful Turkey. Students wrote things that they were thankful for. Kindergartners wrote pictures, or drew pictures, so it was a lot of fun, the excitement to see those in our entryway hallway. It was great. Also, to bring our staff together and get to know each other better, we've had some staff breakfasts. We have a sunshine committee, and they've put on a lot of fun things. We did an elf hunt. We did trivia over the intercom the last week before Christmas break. And so we're just trying to come together with all the new and build a DPE family.
What does trivia over the intercom in the K2 building look like?
So we had, each of the staff members had to give a fun fact to us. And then it was put on a spreadsheet. We draw a name or number, and then if it was associated with that staff member, we'd get break the learning. It was the last day, just before break. And we'd say, okay, who's the staff member who has traveled, say, in 6 countries? And then people would call in and try and guess which staff member. So as we were playing the game, we were all learning about each other, but then the kids were also learning about us as a staff. So it was really fun because the kids were also helping teachers guess. They'd say, oh, yes, I bet that's Miss Carlson. Call and guess Miss Carlson. So they'd call in rapid fire, and they go, nope, nope, nope. So it's really fun to be in the office, too, because the ladies are laughing because the calls are coming in. And it was a fun day. But and then we give out gift cards to the person whose name was drawn to be called, and then the person who guessed that person. So it was a fun day. Another thing we thought was really important this year is we really felt like the staff and students needed to know about Haley and I. So we do daily Google announcements. We put out a link to all the teachers. They sign on at 8:45, and then we go to a different classroom every day, and we just tell them what day it is. We talk about any important messages we want to give them, reminders about PBIS rules, those sorts of things. We announce birthdays. And then we do a social emotional tip of the week at the beginning of the week, and then we reflect at the end of the week, and then we do the Pledge of Allegiance. We have some fun things happening for next year. We're going to add a land acknowledgement once a week, and some other adjustments that we're going to make. It's been a fun little addition. They know who we are. That's a fun thing. And then we've been having a lot of one-on-one conversations. We've had this great opportunity to partner with Chuck Salina and Suzanne Gertz. Travis and Alexa made that possible, and that's really been foundational for us in having conversations with our staff this year to get a gauge of how our school climate and culture is developing. Oh, and this is just fun pictures of our staff. It's been a fun year, and I think we hear a lot of laughter in the hallway, and that to me is really important, and that's why I invite you to come. Is people are talking about kids, how can we move kids, how can we support kids, and we have a great staff.
So all about achievement and core instruction. We're going to review our iReady data from reading and math. So here is our school-wide data for reading. In the fall on the left, you can see we had 7% that were 2 or more years behind. We had 69% that were 1 grade level below, and 24 at or above grade level. And then if you look at our winter scores, we practically doubled the number of students reading at grade level. We have 40% that are still 1 year behind, and then we have 6% that are 2% below. Math, It's the same colors representing the same things. So 15% at grade level in the fall, 76% in one grade level behind, and in the red, 9% 2 or more grades below. So if you look to the right, that's some pretty significant growth. We have 33% at or above grade level. The yellow, 62% one grade level below, and then 5% red, 2 or more grade levels below. So we're really excited to see our spring data, which will happen early June.
This next part is it's a lot of small print, but essentially the gist behind this is we really want core instruction, we want solid at BPE, and then we want to be really supporting students in that intervention and tracking that well. And so we want to be really intentional. We also wanted to have more proximity between which students are being served and who's handing those students over. So we wanted the classroom teacher to play more of an active role in identifying those students through the PLC. And so we put together a process. We started in January and talking about what is the role of the classroom teacher? What is the role of the intervention teacher? How do we use our PLCs to identify kids and then track the progress that they're making? Again, it's that intentionality around when you looked at the data previously, how do we get the 67% into green? How do we shift that? And what we want to see is next year, obviously, more movement, more quickly, and using a more intentional intervention model. And again, classroom teachers are starting to we visited first grade this last PLC. They had a great conversation around who's struggling in their classroom and why. And then they ordered those kids and how we might better serve them through intervention. And that's the process we really want to get to. So this was our plan for the year as a staff to go through the process, because we're going to change how we tackle that next year. That next one, the data is really small, but one thing we've been doing is we've been tracking the sort of social emotional interventions we've been doing. So we have things like a breakfast club that students have been identified they need to check in with an adult in the morning to sort of set their day on the right track. We have a group for that. We have a check-in, check-out. So those students start their day right with their classroom, but they have an adult who goes into the classroom, meets with them and says, hey, how are things going? What do you need? And then we have Lunch Bunch, which is an alternative recess. That might be for kids who they just need a little more structure in learning how do I share, how do I take turns, how do I resolve conflict in a positive way. So that's another group. We've been doing really responsive teaching skills in the moment to students. So we feel like when a student is struggling, we want an adult who can come to the classroom and in the moment support them. And then we're using data to inform some behavior intervention. All the things to the right, just to summarize that, between January 3rd of this year through Friday, April 21st, we have documented 1,500 instances of support that we've provided students. That's very significant, and we can open each one of those 1,500 instances and I can tell you how we supported them. The other nice thing is we can track what growth are we making with a student who might be struggling. We're seeing some really incredible turnarounds with some of our kids who especially coming off COVID, maybe we're having a hard time getting back into what does school really look like. So that's a pretty incredible data for us, I think, and how we're supporting kids. We're pretty proud of that. Questions?
Yes. Question. So with the percentage change between the fall and the winter of math and reading, does that reflect the same on like alternate testing scores? So this is iReady. Is it something they've just grown more familiar with iReady testing, or is that reflected in other areas as well?
So I would say, go ahead.
I would say yes, and we're using a lot of data points to back this up. So we use Ainsworth for our progress monitor, and teachers have their in-class data. So we use iReady as our screener, just kind of as that surface level, where are they at, and then we have other data points. So it's really matching up. It tells us who are our students of concern, and we can quickly identify the areas that we can support them.
Great.
I would almost say we're too data rich at points, in the sense of like this is one point, but even the intervention teachers were commenting in January, we have a lot, and we do want to sort of narrow our focus. So we're pretty data rich and it's pretty consistent.
I think, Craig, part of the idea of being data rich is also being over the course of a span of time. being able to do some correlation. So to your point, if kids have done well on this assessment, does it tell us and predict how they're going to do on this assessment? So if our SBA assessment is kind of the public-facing summative assessment that occurs every spring that gets reported in the papers and on OSBI's website, over time has already been a decent indicator to our staff and our teachers that, hey, we know as we go along the way that kids are making progress here and they're showing that they're at grade level here, that they're going to end up in this place where they can be successful on that test. And generally the answer with this tool has been yes. So that's, I think, one of the primary reasons for doing that ongoing. Obviously, you want to be able to respond in the moment and offer instruction as you see kids struggling in November or December or January, February, and not wait until you get assessment results at the end of the school year and that opportunity is lost. So having data points like this along the way are super important, and having that correlation that the data you're collecting gives you some good information is also very important.
I think it's just a follow-up, just to confirm. These tests are what they're supposed to be at the end of the school year, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
It's always interesting to watch the kindergartners take the assessment in September. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yes.
I think it was Haley that mentioned a third of the staff being new, and I think they included themselves in that. I'd just say we're pretty fortunate to have two pretty fantastic people. You know that Haley has been a teacher in Deer Park previously. We're happy to have her at Deer Park Elementary as assistant principal, and we really lucked out to get Dr. Canberg, who's the principal at Deer Park Elementary this year. She stepped in and just done fantastic work, and I think you can see through the organization, through all that's going on there, that they're doing really, really good work. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Home Lake highlights.
They just told
Travis, can we have a copy of that presentation?
Yeah, you betcha. Yep. Email that to you.
I'm not here with slides, but the group that's going to present from Homeland Kids. So I'm just going to say I'm old school and I've got a few notes, not look how many. So my name's Molly Murphy. It's been a joy to be part of HomeLink for 21 years or so. And as I start about HomeLink highlights, I got to give you my back and say that in a very real way, the story of HomeLink has been so shaped by the people on the board, by the superintendent, by the upcoming superintendent, by board members that have come before, because really we are kind of an experimental program. We're part of Alt-Ed. You heard a bit about Alt-Ed with some high school factors, but we're non-traditional. So when it comes to making some changes or some ideas that we have to have good guidance. And I just feel sort of close to the board members and to the superintendent because we work pretty closely, and it's really been a rich relationship. And I want you to think about this. What we do, we come up to Lindsay and we say we're a public school, and we are partnering with a parent who will be the primary educator of her children. And we're going to bring the best that we have in public school monies. We apply it to curriculum, we apply it to classes, we apply it to ideas. I hope we apply it to some cheerleading. But we're not going to take her place. She's in the driver's seat, and we're along for a wonderful ride. And this district has allowed us to do that in a pretty pure vein. We are not overly academic. I mean, that's very important. I don't want to mislead you. But what we're here to do is supplement what our moms need. And Lindsay is a mom, so I could pick on her. You might not know that. But anyway, it's a creative experiment that has really gone beautifully. And I look back and say, because they've trusted us and said, we know you can choose good curriculum for your parents. We're not going to put any restrictions except it can't be religious curriculum. But we've just been in the cat seat in terms of making decisions that we think are good for our population, know our people, and we have the support of the board to do that. And as a result, Joanne, you've been here a long time. As a result, this is a brag, but I'm just going to share it. I really do think we're kind of the envy of the state. This is a sweet, small, rural community, Deer Park, in the state of Washington. But in the ALE world, people know us because we've been allowed to grow and thrive and have some success. And so as I start off with highlights, I just have to be wise and saying and appreciating the people who have really guided us to that. So thank you so much for that. And this is, I am retiring this year, and I need to just tell them again, this has been the thrill of my life, to be here and to be alongside wonderful educators, some staff back here. It's really a pinnacle for me. I'm so deeply appreciative. I go home I have a big family, I have a lot of grandkids, I'll be in good hands, but I'm so appreciative of the hands that guided me and let me guide some others. And so it's been a deeply worthwhile thrill for me, so I thank all of you so much. That said, I want to tell you that last year we grew quite a bit by a good 20 to 25%. That's kind of large. We're over 600 kids, and among our population there was a little undercurrent that this would change everything. All these new people, all these new kids, we wouldn't be the same. It's not going to work. We're going to watch this, but it won't work. And you know, we added some new consultants. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Keith. Are here. We certainly added an awful lot of extra kids. We added a lot of specialists, and these are the folks that help us lead some classes. And I really want to tell you, we emphasize the importance of warmth. We emphasize the importance of personally knowing people, no matter how big we grow. I think we're in good shape. I'm just going to say, I think that work. We've had some issues with parents lately. That was Cindy is one of ours who started off. Our families feel ardently about things. We know that. We love them for their strong feels, and we try to work pretty hard with them. Let's see, a couple other things. We now have a secured access. That's a big deal. This is an old building. We have 21 doors in this building, and now we have one. And you see, yes. So I think we feel way safer, and things are healthier, and I think our population is pretty pleased with that. Another thing, you may know, you may not know, but admin, we share the building with admin. Once Mike DeRozier's Vision Source, once they have their new building, I don't believe the ground has been...
Not quite yet.
Not quite yet. But in the amazing time that they will build a new building, admin is going to shift to the top floor of that, and we, HomeLink, will absorb the admin offices. We could use the space. We're bulging just a bit, but I can't just let that go and not say thank you. Thank you for decisions that will allow that for us, because we'll covet that room, and I promise we'll use it wisely. One last thing, and then we got a little presentation I think you'll like. Hope you'll like. Last week we had potential high schoolers that we had an after-school session where we told them about high school a la HomeLink and what choices there would be, what our academic track looks like, Running Start and Skills Center, and some things you, with kids who are in the high school age, probably already know about that. And one of the people that was helping lead things sent an email out to staff. It's really lovely. I'd like you to hear it. He said, just this past week, as we have an opportunity for incoming high schoolers to listen to the ways that we run our accredited classes in Skills Center, Running Start, and involvement in parents, this is a bit of information that was shared. He said, as I prepare for my section of 8th grade orientation, I got to thinking about what a great high school program we have for those 8th graders to enter. It's taken a tremendous amount of work to get the kids up to high school level, but at the end of 4 years, it is truly amazing what we have helped to create. Small class size, engaged students, motivated and dynamic instructors, homework accountability, a team of consultants, parents, students, all working together to make this happen. We have something quite unique in public education. Through a mix of on-site, online, and courses taken at home, Our freshmen and sophomores are well prepared to make an educational choice for their junior and senior years. Most of our juniors and seniors pick to continue their academic instruction through Running Start or choose a vocational path. Currently, we have 24 students participating in Running Start with a cumulative college grade point average of 3.6. We have 14 students attending New Tech Skills Center working in a variety of vocational programs. Their cumulative grade point average is a 3.8. Increasingly, more of our juniors and seniors are taking this one step further. That's a new thing. I think this has just started. Taking this one step further by entering a 2-year vocational program at Spokane Community College through Running Start. Next year, we are anticipating 7 students taking certificated vocational programs in HVAC, diesel mechanics, fryer science, computer software development, electrical maintenance, and agribusiness. 95% of our seniors graduate with up to 2 years of college credit or have a head start in vocational programming. We have a graduation rate of 100% just about every year. No matter what the venue or choice, our students do succeed. With our team of parents, students, teachers, administrators, parapros, and consultants, we have created an exceptional high school experience for students. We don't always see those results because some of our junior and seniors are usually off to bigger and better things, but we all know that we have worked hard to get them on that path, and he sent it out to staff, just said, good job, everybody. So I thought that, thank you for listening, but that condenses a bit of, we've come a long way, and we're as invested as we know how to be in giving our students a good path for everything past graduation. So now, thank you for listening to that. We have a presentation of something brand new for HomeLink. I don't think there's anything like this in Deer Park. And we're calling it outdoor education. And the people who have originated this are going to come and share a little bit of information about what that's going to look like. And as they're doing that, by the way, I've got to introduce my replacement. The new principal at HomeLink is Gretchen Hausman, and she came tonight, so we're going to make her stand up. And tell her we've got a gem of a program for her, and I'm just going to do it very nice. So thank you. Oh, I have to put that over there. Town code.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You want to introduce yourselves? We will. Okay.
Deer Park HomeLink Outdoor Education Program, Camp Gifford. That is our goal. We have been working really hard at this. Board, thank you for letting us present. We've been excited to try, this is like our last stop, and then hopefully we get a check mark, and then we're off to Camp Gifford to set up. So, my name is Lisa Kwatchik, and it's so good to see familiar faces. Craig. He was a great soccer player, by the way. Really good goalie.
Which is connected to let us know how long you've been here in Deer Park.
I know. Okay, I've been here over 30 years.
Yeah.
So hopefully this is my last. I'm just like looking at all these people, a lot of students of mine. So I've been here for over 31 years, and hopefully this is my last stop. I've worked in every building. I have taught K-12, and this has been a wonderful experience here. I'm a first-year consultant, and just really enjoyed working with Molly. She really understands her staff, and she just kind of gives them, if they see something they like, she'll say, okay, go for it. So this is how this started. I'm new, I meet Paulette, we totally connect. And I get this email from Molly, and it says something about outdoor school ed, and there's all this training for a week, and the district doesn't have to hardly pay for anything. So we go to Molly. I signed up for it, Molly. And she goes, you did? And I'm like, yeah, and so did Paulette. But we had to be chosen. So we weren't chosen yet, and we got chosen. So we went to Ellensburg in the middle of November.
The coldest week of the winter that
The coldest week there. So we were doing outdoor ed all week long in November. So we were outside learning. So we're going to give you a little bit of taste of what we had to do, but it's not November, so.
It will be.
So next slide.
So I'm Paulette Hines, and this is my second year as a consultant here at Deer Park HomeLink. And my background is I'm a K-8 cert, special ed, and I've been a math and science coach for a lot of years. I homeschooled 5 of my kids at Bear Walker Parent Partnership, and they graduated through homeschool, and they also went to Running Start, so I'm really familiar with how this works. The program that we went through was through Pacific Education Institute and Washington State Outdoor Ed Association. I'm supposed to know that. And so they held this. I've been to tons for years of PEI Institute classes and workshops, and so it was just kind of a natural thing that let's go give this a shot. And the amazing thing when we were out there reminded me, and you said this too, reminded me of my first camp experience was in 4th grade, and it was a week in Camp Seebeck over on the peninsula. And when I was crawling around with PEI and Burke Institute paleontologists this last summer, I reminded again that kids love doing this stuff, and I'm out there crawling around licking, well, some of them I thought they were dinosaur bones, but licking fossils to see if they really were. Like, this is what kids want to do. They want to do place-based learning. So that's what got us excited about doing this.
So what are the benefits of learning outside? Well, there's a ton of benefits, as you can see, and I'm not going to read everything. But we just kind of want to just hone in on a few of them. And one of them is improve the self-confidence and just improve social skills. What we'd like to do at Outdoor School in the morning is have a fire chat, and then so kids would be sitting around the fire, and then we would kind of start our day that way, and then so that would help with the social emotional part, and then get them on their way to their different things where they're going to learn science, cooking over the campfire, survival skills, orientation, and then all the other things that come with camp when you're there.
And so one of the things that really is our motivation, I'm actually going to read it because I want to say it correctly, is that real life place-based learning is meaningful, and it motivates students to learn more. It helps them to stick to the harder stuff that they're struggling through. They know they're going to get to do these other activities, and they can do math outside as well, right? And it helps them to learn to care for their environment, and maybe even globally looking bigger at that. And so, so we have put together a kind of a team, not kind of, it is an amazing collaborative team. Jennifer Bleeker is kind of like our sounding board. She brings us down to earth, and she keeps us where we're supposed to be and says, this is how the schedule can work, and she just builds that for us. So she's going to help us here. She's here with us today. And we want to remember that outdoor learning brings that awe and wonder to learning, right? So we're here to bring you some joy today, and we've got something to help you to just get a little experience, because maybe it's been a while since you've seen that awe and wonder, and so it's just like the magic in a stick. So yes, we have sticks. All right, you ready?
Yep.
You ready for those sticks? You get to do the sticks. And Jennifer's going to bring you a little anatomy of a stick. And so everybody gets some sticks. Now, I just did this activity with my grandson, and Suzanne even saw me in the park working on this. Like, why are you looking at sticks? I'm like, let me show you. Okay? So remember, we're looking at the awe and wonder. So on the card that you have on the front card, it has a little anatomy of the stick. And I'm doing this as an inquiry-based piece. I'm going to tell you what we're doing. And this is part of that outdoor learning. It's inquiry. We want them to ask those questions and learn. So on the front, you can see the anatomy of your stick. I'm not even going to tell you what kind of stick it is yet, because in reality, I want you to figure it out. Maybe you go look for it. But I do want you to look and see there is a little line at the bottom. It's a scar in your stick. Oh yeah, I have some in my pocket. Because we like to have our treasures when we're kids, right? Oh, no, cough drop. And you want one? You want a stick? Since you guys are just sitting right there. All right, so in your stick, you're gonna see there's those scars on there, those growth marks, and you can see how far, where that stick, how long it grew. And so what you want to do is like this back again, that's it. So try to find your growth mark. Now, the best time to do is in November. Most of these sticks were rotten. We had to get a lot of sticks to try to find some that work. But you're going to snap your stick on that growth line. So see if you can find a growth line. Most of you have at least more than one. Oh, I got a really good one. Did you? Oh, yeah. Here, I'll pass them down. So I just had my stick like this, and I broke it on the growth line. There's a couple other growth lines. If you guys want to break it and see, but you can see what's inside that stick. Now, did everybody see something special in your stick? Or is it rotten and it's all mushy? Oh, she's an ant. Now,
Protein man.
what does somebody see in their stick?
Star.
A what?
The star.
A star. So if you found a star in your stick, what do you want to do? You want to go find more? If you didn't, is there any that didn't? Oh, your star is way down in there, but it's there, isn't it? And then you find lots of power. And so the whole point is this, is to bring the joy back and to bring that awe and wonder. And what I want to say is that we can now have some social studies that we're going to bring in to the science. So the science is with the anatomy of that branch. And my 8-year-old grandson said, well, what is that star? Well, I asked him, what do you think it is? You know stuff about trees. He goes, I don't know what it is. I said, why do you think it's there in the center of the stick? He goes, I don't know. There's the giant cottonwood, by the way. You think there's one in the middle of the tree? And I'm like, well, you can have to figure that out on your own. You can do some research and see what you can figure out. And so we started talking about that star. I said, it's called pith in the middle of the star. What does the pith do? And he said, I don't know. I said, well, what happens in the middle of the tree? He goes, well, nutrients move up the branches. He's 8. I said, you are correct. So now you have some research to do. But the other piece I want to connect this to is that with this place-based learning, they're going to want to go find as many sticks as they can go find. And want to learn about those trees and what the names of the trees are and what the trees do with their different life cycles. Think about social studies. Right? Now we have a connection, and on their package you guys see the connection to social studies. They're going to learn about legends and talk about place-based learning and learning about what are the cultures, what are other cultures. There's a story about the star and the cottonwood for our indigenous people, and what did they think about that, and how did that form their beliefs and dances and stories, those oral stories that were not. So that's just a little sample of how place-based learning and getting out in nature can bring it back around and make it exciting for kids. I'm wondering if, Suzanne, you can go look for sticks out there in that park?
Yes, thank you.
Maybe. Oh, next slide.
Okay, so we went to several programs. The only program that was similar to the one we wanted to have was at Mead. And so we went up to Mead, and we wanted to go in the winter because we're like, really, you can do outdoor school in the middle of winter, and they were. It was freezing.
So cold.
Yeah,
Like a
but they were all dressed appropriate. There was 2 fires going. They had some shelter, and the kids were running around. There was art going on in one area, and then the other area was they were playing games. So there's just so much that you can do. So we wanted to choose a place not at HomeLink. We wanted to go somewhere else. So we looked at Camp Reed, which was honestly my favorite, but they were way too expensive. And so then we went to Camp Gifford, and that seemed to be the best place. Number one, it's just easier for parents to drop kids off in Clayton and they go to Camp Gifford. Also, Camp Gifford, his name is Dustin Richardson. He was amazing. He used to be a student here and graduate. I think I met him at PE. And he was super energetic and just really wanted to help us. And he was trying to start some sort of outdoor ed. So And they came in at a great price. So, and they have so much to offer. There's wetlands, you can go up in the mountain there, you can go on all these hikes, then there's the lake so we can go kayaking. There's archery, so we'll be able to teach some archery. And it's just a beautiful place. So we'll have the downstairs part, we're in the main building, we'll just have the basement part, so there's plenty of storage. And there's all these other activities. So we chose to go with Camp Gifford.
And when we've talked about the money and the sustainability, yeah, we are working on applying for a grant. We have our part written, we're just waiting for the grant to open. It opened so far the second year. I'm not sure how many years, but I know that we're waiting for it to open up, and we will be applying for a grant to help. But it's not enough, and Deer Park Home Link and Deer Park School District have been so gracious and just letting us know and so supportive that we can sustain this with our program. We're not depending just on a grant. So that was a really big deal, is that we could use our money wisely, but it's still sustainable even without the grant.
We're still writing the grant. It's a great experience.
Give us the question.
Okay, so here's our plans. This is how we think that outdoor ed would start. We want to go with grades 5 through 8. At that age, they can take care of themselves, and they're just a little bit more independent. The way we're going to choose them is we're going to do a lottery system so it can be equitable. We also want to do teacher interview, contract, and teacher recommendation, and then a parent-student contract. Biggest thing we're concerned about is safety. So kids need to follow directions. Kids need to come when you ask them to come. Kids, you can't be running out off somewhere. So that's why we're going through a teacher recommendation and then sitting down with that student and parent saying, look, it's really important that you love being outside all the time, so, and enjoying being outside. So that's why we want to have those things done. We're going to have 40 students and 10 students in each grade level, and then we're going to have 2 semesters. So we'll have first semester and then second semester, and we're going to start at 8:30 in the morning and go to 2:30 in the afternoon. We'll have 4 specialists that will do the enrichment activities, and then 2 paraprofessionals, and then we'll have camp directors on site at all times.
And so we have put together our team so far. We've had several specialists come to us and say they were very interested in this. We did have one come to us say she was very interested. And then when we explained what that entailed for a whole semester, 8:30 till 2:30, no matter the weather, she said, I'm just not sure that's a thing for me. And I get that. We really get that. And that's what we want to hear. We want to have those conversations with our parents about their kiddos and about the people that are going to be there on campsite every day. For the next one, I think you get to start this one.
Yeah. So these are some of the activities that we like to do. We're still working through risk management, but there's the ropes course, there's the climbing tower, the zip line. We have hiking, kayaking, archery, all kinds of games. Ropes course, we would do like just once in the fall, once in the spring, so they can get that experience and that teamwork and stuff. All those kinds of things cost a little bit more, so just depending on budget and where we're at. But honestly, this is the look at this. This is amazing. Kids get to do this stuff, and they're going to school and learning. So it's magical, and we're super excited, and I can't wait to try and get this going.
We've got a lot of work to go to get there, but we're one step at a time, and this is one of our steps, so we're really thankful that you guys met with us for this. We ask our families to have a mission for their homeschool, and they get to write that mission. They don't have to share it with us, but we do ask them to have a mission because that helps ground them. And so here's our mission for our outdoor education program, and we're calling it outdoor education because we're not a separate school. We are still just a set of classes in a different building in Home Link. So I really want to use those words correctly. We are an outdoor education. So So go ahead, we're just going to, Lisa, you want to read that?
So Deer Park Home Lake Outdoor Education endeavors to provide authentic, real-life learning that occurs in the great outdoors, making it possible for children to create relationships with others, make connections with the natural world through curiosity, exploration, and science.
Are there any questions?
I had one for you guys.
Yeah.
Is this going to be parents have to transport up there?
Yes.
Or a bus?
Parents will have to drop them off. Parents will have to drop them
Is
off.
the timeline, because you said it starts at 8:30, does that give parents enough time to get back here to Clayton or Deer Park?
Yeah.
That was our goal.
That was our goal.
That was to try to give that space. That's why you see the
20
times the way they are.
Yeah. Any other questions?
We will be doing a parent orientation on May 9th and another one on May 11th. Right here, if it gets too full, we'll move it to the gym. So we've had lots and lots of people come to us and say they're so excited. I have an 8th grader like, I hope I make it, I hope I make it. He would live outside. So, so we're really excited for that, and so you're welcome to come to any of those and maybe come see us out at Camp Gifford when we get to be there.
Typically, if you would, for example, approve a high school course guide tonight, course offerings and what they offer at home wouldn't be something that the board would necessarily have to approve, but because this is off-campus learning, there you have policy 3114 that talks about the board's involvement in approving that. So you'll get an opportunity to consider further based on the presentation that Paulette and Lisa have given you tonight, and get a chance to review policy, ask any further questions before you make final program approval decisions. The other thing that we did, FYI, I think we already talked about this briefly, is given that Camp Gifford technically, even though it's on Deer Lake, is on the north side of Deer Lake, which is no longer Deer Park School District property, so we're actually running an educational program outside district boundaries. So called Brad Van Dyne at Balloon Lake got his approval. He laughed that I called to ask, but I called to ask, and so that I was dotted and T was crossed, and so from Blue Lake's perspective, we've got permission to be up in their land, offer an educational program. So
There will be accountability, safety, everything.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the number one for us.
Absolutely.
Safety for the kids.
Yep.
Absolutely. And so we have all the programs that we met with, like we said, with MAID Outdoor Schools, and also we at WALA, which is our ALE statewide, I don't know, convention, we call it? Conference, that's a better word. And we actually did a pull-out, and we gathered together all the names and people from across the state. They met with Lisa and I. It was a pretty exciting time to see all these programs that are happening. So we have this really great cohort of people that can help us with that. I did fail to say that Pacific Education Institute, OSPI, and Washington Outdoor Schools, we're all meeting in a week from now.
We'll be at outdoor school again.
We get to go back to outdoor school. Hopefully it won't be 5 degrees. And we'll be spending a few days out there working with them and working more on those pieces of that safety. The same thing you would do when the middle school goes to Camp Reed. They go to Camp Reed? Mm-hmm. They go to Camp Reed. We are working with them to make sure that we are just getting all of those pieces and having them help us with that.
we've also reached out, Alexa and I reached out to Clear Risk Solutions, our risk and liability company, who got their approval. Obviously, they'd love to see kind of a final plan and have that in hand, just so all of these elements are, the boxes are checked. Part of what the research they've done and money that's available, there's so many opportunities. Even Dr. Canberg mentioned through AWSP, there's someone who's got, I think she said, truckloads of money. Waiting to spend it on outdoor
You'll have to give us that number.
We want to connect with money bags over
Yes.
Yeah. Sounds good.
We'll be talking to you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Good job, you guys.
Okay, lastly,
One question. Can you turn around, one of our board members was wondering what your shirt said.
Lisa Paulette, or Paulette, you see your shirt, it's on the back.
Oh, you guys say this, yeah. So this is the shirt we got at the November outdoor education.
And I got this backpack from them.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think
It's a lot of stuff. It was great.
And the novel.
Wow.
Thank you both, ladies.
Okay, how do I get my computer off of your thing?
That was a good.
There we go.
Okay, math. We'll stop math. Alexa's going to dive in, and this is connected. You're going to be taking action a little bit later on what's being presented here. So this information that you gather here will be partially what you're going to be considering to take action here in a little bit.
So that's a tough act to follow.
Next time, let us go first.
Lots of energy, checks, and now you have, let's see, your science, your social studies, you had your athletics, with PE. So we're going to round you out with a little math to close out your school day for today. But as you know, we go through the annual curriculum review and adoption process. Last year, we covered the English language arts curriculum review and adoption process. This year, we were slated for math. So in that same way, we have the 4 schools represented, Deer Park Elementary School, Arcadia, Deer Park Middle School, and Deer Park High School. And I think that after last year's ELA review and adoption process, I went through a lot of learning myself just going through the process, but it really gave me an opportunity to get to know the educators, was able to visit their PLCs, able to visit their math teams, able to visit as a whole K-5 group, K-5, K-12, all in the same way. But one of the things that's really important to me is making sure that the educator voice and the voices from the fields is represented. That's really important to me. So that's why we have our group here today to be able to share with you a little bit about the process, why they selected and chose what they did, because they're the ones that are with the kids each and every day. They're learning about the kids, they're monitoring student growth, they're looking at the standards, and so their voices are really important. So it's the voices from the field. So I'll just start with a quick round of introductions, and they can introduce themselves with their name, their school and grade level, and then we'll get started on the PowerPoint.
Okay. Sarah Heights, DPE, first grade.
Monica Etman, Arcadia Elementary, 3rd grade.
Stacy Brown, high school.
And Miriam Corkins, Deer Park Middle School.
And so we're going to condense a year plus process. We actually started last spring when we started the ELA review and adoption process. One of my first learnings was we need a little bit more time. So this crew, even though they're going to condense it and talk about it in a very short amount of time, they've had a whole year that they've engaged in meetings, curriculum reviews, meeting with the publishers, meeting with the vendors, getting professional development, professional learning around the various curricula that they looked at. So they really spent a lot of time. They used their PLC times to look at it. They developed growth goals, and they really took the time to analyze the curriculum that was going to be best to meet their needs. So I really appreciate your time and you being here tonight. Thank you. We don't have sticks. We should run some napkins or something to lighten it up. But so as you know, part of our work is to create the instructional materials committee. So we had a group of representatives across the schools involving teachers, administrators, special education as a part of this process. And they were involved in the conversations, in the meetings, and helped with the discussions in each of the schools. Again, this is more about the review from OSPI, making sure that we are following the parameters and the guidelines from OSPI. And I think the next one is around our policy and procedure around the adoption process. So just making sure that we are coming together and engaging in the process in accordance with policy, procedure, and OSPI. This was the Instructional Materials Committee, and these were the folks who were involved in part of the process. We had representatives from each of the grade levels, as well as middle school interventionists and special education. And as I shared with you, we started this process last year. I went out for what's called an RFP, a request for proposal. Went out and we just had tons and tons of math coming our way. So the hope was that the teams were going to be able to take a look at all the math that was coming in their way, kind of flip through the books, get an idea of what there was between the online offerings, the hard copies that were offered, to then decide where I really wanted to start the school year was let's start with the 2 that we really want to pilot and establish a timeline from there. We come together as a group, K-12, and really wanted to make sure that we were on the same page with what is it that's important to us. When we are looking at math curriculum, these are the pieces that we came up in terms of importance. There are definitely external groups. The International Math Group comes up, OSPI comes up with standards, but this is really what was important to us and our educators here in Deer Park. Obviously, alignment with Common Core State Standards, assessments, opportunities for differentiation, online components, a variety of assessments, ability to manipulate those assessments online. Those were all pieces that were really important to our educators. And in the end, they decided to pilot. DPE decided to pilot 2. Arcadia currently uses Eureka Math, and they also piloted what's a new one. It's going to be coming out shortly, which is Eureka Math Squared. The middle school piloted 2, and Deer Park High School. I'll have Stacy talk a little bit about that story because it was a relatively new curriculum as it was. So they made the decision to review the curriculum that they already have. Okay, moving on to DPE.
All right, so I'm excited that we did decide to adopt Bridges as well as a number corner, which is the calendar piece. I'm using Bridges right now in my classroom. My students can tell you what a parallelogram is. They can tell you today 6 times 5 plus 4 is 34. They can do a lot. And the reason I love Bridges connected with number corner is because it spirals constantly. And I teach first grade. And it's just, they are getting this, not geometry just 1 week of the year, but they're getting it constantly, and they love it, and they're super engaged. It's beyond hands-on. It's work for me, but it's so incredibly worth it to see how excited they are. I have used this curriculum in my past district, K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they loved it. All the grade levels. So I'm really, really excited to be able to use it again and just see that excitement and their knowledge and the number chats that we have and everything. It's really an all-inclusive spiraling curriculum. So I'm excited.
Just to share with you a little bit of what you just shared.
Yeah.
But there are 2, so Travis, if you can go to the next one too. There are 2 components to Bridges. There's number corner, and then there's Bridges and mathematics. And number corner is really the pathway to fluency. So it's the math fluency that she was talking about, and then the Bridges in mathematics has to do with the procedures and really looking at the conceptual components of math. What we learned recently, like literally recently, like last week, is that number corner is going to be updating the number corner component to 2023. And then the Bridges in mathematics is going to be updating in alignment with number corner 2023, Bridges in mathematics 2024. So our recommendation to you is to continue the core, which we already have right now for 1 more year, which is Ready Math. It's aligned with our diagnostic iReady as well. But to keep that for 1 more year, because that's our core right now, and by the way, it's also going to be updated, and adopt the number corner 2023 for next year. So we'll continue with Ready Math and get number corner this next year. And then the following year, when Bridges in Mathematics 2024 comes out, we'll already have number corner, but then to replace the Ready Math with the Bridges in Mathematics 2024. They are aligned, they're just rolling them out in 2 different years.
And some teachers have expressed that it's a little overwhelming, and so this will give them time to learn the number corner and then layering in that Bridges as well.
So I remember when the teachers were coming back and describing, yes, it's a lot of stuff because it's very hands-on, very manipulative, heavy. But for K2, it's very appropriate because the kids need to explore and they need to touch and they need to feel and they need to see. But when we came back and they were describing the students' engagement, everybody was sold on Bridges. So DPE is super excited about Bridges.
Definitely more inquiry based.
But that's our recommendation to you for our core and why.
All right, so we piloted Eureka Math Squared, but we decided to stick with Eureka Math. When the adoption process came up, 3rd through 5th, we didn't have a problem with our current curriculum. We actually like it. Like a teacher that wasn't sold on it was like, why are we moving? And this is a hard teacher to get to like a curriculum. He's like, why are we moving? It works. It does great for our kids. We tried Eureka Math Squared because there was some components that like easier story problems, just wording wise, that we wanted to check out. But in the end, the rigor was Eureka Math. Like it had the rigor that we wanted, and it had essentially what we needed. We just need to get a little more not updated, but teacher materials, because a couple of the teachers don't have the teacher manuals and manipulatives that we need. And then the Edulastic and formative. Edulastic partnered with Eureka, and the math tests are through Edulastic for Eureka. And then Zern gives us an additional practice piece, it's amazing. It goes along with the curriculum and just gives kids an extra dose that they need.
Well, if you could advance one more slide, it just reinforces why they opted to stay with Eureka instead of adopting Eureka Squared. Go ahead.
I guess I'd just say I love this story that is embedded here. That is, I think one of the things that's communicated here is being on a regular adoption cycle. So having curriculum money to spend on looking at materials is a fantastic thing. But I love the fact that we have teachers looking at the material saying, if we don't need to switch, if we feel like we have the materials we need to meet the needs of kids, we're going to stick with this. Adoption of a new program, each of these people can tell you, comes with a ton of teacher learning around learning that new program, being effective with it. So historically documented is this concept of the implementation dip, right? You buy a bunch of new materials, you get this new stuff, you think it's fantastic, but while you might really like it, it's going to take you some time to learn it and to really integrate it into the lessons you teach, the lessons you design. And so, the fact that Arcadia feels like they can continue to move forward with materials they have in their hand, and that we can return to this conversation a few years from now and say, are we still in the right place? Feels like a really good place to be versus, hey, the materials we have in our hands are 18 years old and they don't meet standards and we're not meeting the needs of kids. So I think a really good story embedded in what Monica shared with you there.
I felt like the teachers were really insightful and thoughtful about the decision that they made. And I think even going back to Eureka versus Eureka Squared, the new one, they took a look at it, they tried it, they felt like the story problems were not as in-depth. It didn't challenge students at or above grade level to the where they needed them to be. There were elements and components that they liked from Eureka Squared, but ultimately chose the current curriculum because they felt that was what was best for kids. And obviously, it would have been lovely to have been aligned K-5. However, there is a very big difference in terms of what kindergartners are learning and how they learn math with the manipulatives and the touch and the game versus, gosh, when they hit Arcadia at 3rd grade, they're reading, they need to solve story problems. They're more complex and in-depth story problems is what I heard from Arcadia, as well as they've got the Smarter Balanced Assessment that's sitting in a month that they'll be taking. So
in a week.
The teachers are really ready to get the students launched and prepared for it. It's just a different set of instructional strategies that they use. So also we're going to continue with the iReady personalized instruction. So they take the diagnostic K-5 3 times a year, which is what Deer Park Elementary shared with you. It gives us a kind of a dipstick and a touch point as to where students are, how they're doing. And then we purchased the personalized instruction for reading and math alike, and it individualizes and personalizes the instruction for students online. So when teachers might be doing their whole group and then going into the little small groups and differentiation, part of those individual times that students can work independently will be on the personalized instruction through iReady. So we'll continue with that.
Deer Park Middle School, we were using Savvis. That's what we've had for the last 7 years. And there's not a lot of resources. There's very little differentiation, very little practice with fluency. So it's just story problem. And all the story problems were like, it's the same problem, different number, different name. It's just the same thing over and over. So we did that for a little bit, and then we went to Big Ideas. Big Ideas is a traditional textbook versus the consumable that we had, but it also does come with the student like an interactive notebook that you can, and they also have that online too. So the biggest concern that we as a staff have found is there's so many resources, which is a great problem to have. So just, we're excited about the training for it. There's a lot more room for differentiation. There's a lot, there's materials for our special education students. There's materials for our gifted and talented. There's also at Deer Park Middle School, in 7th grade, we offer a pre-algebra class, which is 7th and 8th grade in 1 year. So up until now, we've been basically piecemealing together a curriculum for those students so that they're prepared for the high school algebra in 8th grade. This actually does have a program that condenses 7th and 8th grade, so it's a lot more, it's reasonable, it's doable. And instead of piecemealing it, it's taking the 7th and the 8th grade standards and putting them together in one lesson where it's appropriate. So we just thought that was really great for that particular group of students that we have. It has digital and it has the book, which is great because Savvis didn't have a very good digital platform. And we just, overall, it was a fantastic program that the kids are really actually genuinely enjoying, which is also nice to hear the kids say, hey, we actually like doing math right now. It has a response to intervention, which is great. So our lab coordinator is really enjoying that, and our interventionist is using a lot of resources too. So all in all, it's just a great program that we're really excited to use. And again, it's got more of the depth of knowledge. The Savvis just really was, here's a problem with, you know, different names and kind of doing the same stuff. The online access is great. The RTI, from what I understand from lab intervention, has just been really helpful, and they didn't have it before. So again, those are just some of the perks. And this is just about the rigor with the Savvis. The other thing is, with the old stuff, they had maybe 12 problems of practice. It didn't build into anything. There was no difference in depth of knowledge. The rigor was just, here's this problem. And this goes back to kind of a traditional textbook in the practice, in that it starts with those, you know, it might start with integers and then go to fractions and decimals and then go into application, whereas we weren't seeing that before. So again, just another perk to that. And then the next one is just, those are the resources that we have access to. So like I said, if anything, the biggest problem we have is that it's overwhelming. So we're excited to dive in. We've seen some of it, but we're excited to get more training and look at more of it.
So at the high school, we chose to review the curriculum that we are currently working with. We haven't had the curriculum for that long, and it's been working well for us. And so we chose to go through the process of just making sure it still meets our needs and is in line with standards. So those are the texts that we're currently using from algebra up through our pre-calculus class. Thank you. So they're aligned with what we need them to be aligned with the Common Core standards. A lot of resources, like she was mentioning with their program, a lot of resources for teachers and students. Kids have online access to their textbooks. There's other resources that kids can have access to online. Teachers have access to editable forms, so they have a lot of worksheets that are differentiated, so it meets our needs for meeting needs of kids that are below, at, and above grade level. And then teachers can also edit those if they want to. So, you know, you get a worksheet that has 20 problems on it, and, you know, you don't like these, you know, you can edit it. So that is a good thing. And then there's also, we can do that with both worksheets and tests and assessments, and so tailor them to what we need them to be. They also have an online assessment component to that. So if we want to, you can give both homework assignments and tests online. And so that is used by some of us. And I think that is, yeah. So it's just been working well for us. We've had curriculums in the past where, you know, we've had something for a couple of years and you just go, okay, we do not like this. We want something different. That is not the case with the current curriculum. So we just chose to continue on with what we've got right now. So.
Well, and I just really want to thank Miriam and Sophie too for your leadership and your leadership with your math teams. Thanks for engaging with me personally and all of my materials and resources that I shared with you, as well as your response, and then taking your team through this process. I really appreciate that a lot. So we went to the newspaper and district advertisement, solicited feedback. I don't know that we had any visitors over the course of the past 2 weeks, unlike ELA last year. ELA was a little bit more lively. Of course, it was coupled with another curriculum adoption as well. But anyway, so here we are, and it is, I don't know if any of you have time tonight, it's getting late, but we do have the curriculum on display out in the office. So I just want to thank the educators again for their time and for the analysis and critical analysis that you put into the review and adoption process again this year. Any questions? You've had your full day of education today. Well done.
Got it.
That was the exciting thing.
Second's over.
All right. Has everybody had a chance to look over the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? right, passes. We have some action items tonight. So, high school course description guide. Travis?
Annual approval, I don't think any significant changes.
Everybody have a chance to look that over? Okay, need a motion.
Move to approve the high school course description guide.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, this is easy then. Math curriculum adoption for all K-12, right? That's what we're doing. And what these nice ladies presented to us, so awesome. Thank you very much for coming tonight and explaining it to us and enjoying doing math, so. I like it. So I need a motion, please, for adoption.
I move to approve math curriculum adoption.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Resolution number 5, WIA membership. Do you want to?
So that's the resolution form that was uploaded to your board packet. Just again, another annual agreement to continue participation in WIAA athletics.
So just so folks know, we have to belong to WIAA in order to have our kids participate in the programs through the state. So, and it comes every year.
Move to approve.
Right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Policy number 3520 and 3520P, student fees, fines, and charges. First read of such.
Yeah, I think probably the key up on the board, you can see one of the core elements of the new procedure that's associated with the policy is that this section right here, fee waivers and reductions will be granted to students whose families with difficulty paying for the reason of their low income. So new that ASB fees, other school-related fees, we'll be charging for certain things. Students who qualify, we've got a provision for them to pay those funds. So new elements written into the law. That was a bill passed in the legislature that obviously has made its way into board policy. In addition to that, embedded in here are reporting requirements, so we need to share how many students are accessing those things, how many types of fees and fines we charge. So you can go to each of our building websites and see those ASB reports.
All right. Motion, please.
Move to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Travis, anything else for the good of us? This was a great meeting.
Nice.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, so we are in adjournment. Thank you all for coming. It's great to see you.